Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Outstanding Women in Business 2022 Recipient Reflections. I'm Ernesto Burden. I'm the publisher of New Hampshire Business Review, and it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to this event today. It is Recipient Reflections in that we are not having our traditional in-person Outstanding Women in Business, which was scheduled for last month during the peak of the Omicron spike. And so all of the recipients have agreed to join us here today, demonstrating many of the characteristics that I am sure contribute to the ways in which they are outstanding in the world of business, including flexibility, innovation, and creativity. So thank all of them for being here and for being willing to change up our format this year with us. And I'm excited to hear from them, so I'm going to get right to it. I want to thank our sponsors today: Lovering Auto Group, Melanson Certified Public Accountants, Connection, Meredith Village Savings Bank, Basil Hayden's, the Business and Industry Association of New Hampshire. And with that, let's get going. I want to introduce Jeff Feingold, who is going to get us started and kick off the process. Jeff Feingold is the editor of New Hampshire Business Review. You all know him and love him. Here he is, Jeff. Great to see you.
I don't know about love, but I'll try to feel it anyway. I have to say thank you, Ernesto. And it is a little unusual to not be with you and seeing your faces, because I have to say this is still, to me, one of the great events New Hampshire Business Review has put on. We put it on since 2006, and in that time we've recognized dozens and dozens of truly remarkable, extraordinary women who have contributed so much, not only to the business community of the state, but the entire community as well, and in many cases beyond the borders of New Hampshire. All the women we're going to be honoring today are really truly outstanding. They've all contributed above and beyond to the success of the businesses they own or work for. They've all faced and met often incredible challenges. They've each had an impact on the industry they're involved in. They each have shown extraordinary decision-making skills. And last but certainly not least, they are all advocates for women in the workplace. Now they have so much to share, and I'm really eager to hear their reflections today. As Ernesto said, we've had to, unfortunately, I hate to use this word, but we've had to pivot once again because of the variant we all went through, and we're hoping that it's behind us. But what we're going to be doing today is having a panel discussion featuring all of our winners who have been graciously agreed to be here. And they will discuss and explore just their insight. We'll be able to hear their insights, their inspirations, and I think truly that we will all be inspired, because that's the great thing about this event, and it's always been that way, is that we have heard so much from so many wonderful, remarkable women who've had so much to share that it's really an inspiring evening, and this time morning. I just wanted to say one other thing, that we've chosen 6 winners this year, as we do every year, and not unusually, these women truly are remarkable in one other way. We had about, I'd say, almost 70 nominations this year for Outstanding Women in Business Award, and I would say the vast majority of those nominations were all extremely impressive. And what we narrowed down the pool of nominees to about 24 finalists, and our panel of judges chose the final 6 winners. It was not an easy decision, but as one of my favorite baseball announcers of all time, Phil Rizzuto, once said, the cream always rises to the top. And that's what we saw tonight. We saw this year. So once again, I'm looking forward to this. I'm really very eager to do this. Before we move on to the panel, I wanted to just say one of the things we've done at the Business Review as part of Outstanding Women in Business, that for the last 7 years, we've been presenting an award separate from the Outstanding Women in Business honor, and it's called the Advocate for Women's Empowerment, or the AWE Award. The OR Award honors an individual or organization that has made a lasting impact on empowering women and girls in New Hampshire. And this year's OR Award recipient is Arts in Reach, or AIR. Since 1997, Arts in Reach has served the needs of teenage girls and gender-expansive youth with high-quality arts programs and mentoring with professional artists. In the past 25 years, to become confident, resilient, and self-reliant, over 2,000 teens have participated in AIR's empowerment programs. At least a 25% increase over the state average, and 55% volunteer in their communities after. So I'd like to right now introduce Deborah Holloway, who's the executive director of AIR. I apologize, I had a little strange message about my webcam. Anyway, I'd like to introduce Deborah Holloway, who has been working with AIR since 1998 and was actually the first board member and chair of the organization, and has been the executive director for several years now. So Deborah, please welcome and congratulations.
Thank you, Jeff. On behalf of all the dedicated board members, volunteers, donors, staff members, and more than 2,000 New Hampshire teens we've served since 1997, I thank you and the New Hampshire Business Review for this amazing award. Arts in Reach, or AIR, as you said, was founded by two UNH graduates who believe that all teens should have access to the transformative power of the arts. AIR's inclusive art programs empower teenage girls and gender-expansive youth to develop a strong sense of self, dream big, and pursue success, just like the outstanding women in business that we are here to honor today. Engaging in the arts develops teens' voices, skills, and connections with each other and the community. And as a result, teens cultivate the courage to pursue their personal, educational, and professional goals, no matter the inequalities or adversities they face. The key to AIR's success over the past 25 years is offering out-of-school arts programming with mentoring by professional artists from our community, free of charge and with free transportation. We are dedicated to lifting barriers to access to the arts and arts programming, and in the process, transforming lives. As an alum said, quote, AIR made me a strong woman, a woman who isn't afraid to pursue my dreams or to ask for what I want. AIR made me a compassionate human. So for anyone out there who wants to learn more about Arts in Reach, please visit our website at artsinreach.org. And again, thank you and the New Hampshire Business Review for the award. It's an amazing honor.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And once again, congratulations. I just want to say that I was a longtime member of the New Hampshire Women's Foundation. There it is.
Hi, this is Ernesto. I'm jumping in only because it appears that Jeff has frozen. And so and there seems to be some connectivity issue with him. So thank you again, Deborah. And Jeff, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't think that we
The
can
meat
hear
of the
you.
show of the morning, and that is the panel discussion featuring Amanda Andrews, our moderator. I wanted to introduce Amanda for a second. Amanda is our associate editor at the Business Review. She's been our associate editor for since October or so. And I have to say she hit the ground running is an understatement, because ever since she joined our staff, she just shows us every day how outstanding a woman is. So Amanda, thank you very much, Amanda. And I saying all that nice stuff about her, I don't have to give you a raise now, so that's good.
Thank you, Jeff. Again, sorry for those issues. We should be all set now. But thank you all for joining us today. We're going to hear from this year's Outstanding Women in Business honorees. I've had the opportunity to speak with each of these amazing women about their journeys through New Hampshire's business landscape, and I'm thrilled that they can share their career reflections with all of you today. Throughout the webinar, we are going to welcome that attendees watching in can write questions in the chat, and periodically I'll read them out loud for our panelists to answer. You should have a chat feature right there on the side of your screen. Feel free to either send in questions or comments, and I will read them aloud as appropriate. And also a recording of today's webinar will also be available at nhbr.com afterwards, in case anybody that you're aware of was not able to join. Now we're going to meet our wonderful 2022 Outstanding Women in Business recipients. We have Amy Hamans, who unfortunately could not join us today. She had some last minute traveling to do, but she is the founder and former Chief Experience Officer of MadPow, a design agency in Portsmouth that partners with clients to improve health and helps people achieve financial well-being and have a positive social impact. She also serves as the Vice President of An Orphan's Dream, a nonprofit dedicated to providing an orphanage for children in Kenya who have lost their parents to AIDS and/or domestic violence. So hopefully we can meet Amy in the future, but congratulations to her. Judy Rogers is joining us as well, the owner of Prime Roast Coffee Company in Keene, a small batch coffee roaster committed to providing customers with the freshest, highest quality coffees from around the world. She's active in her community by serving on various boards and committees, not, cemented to Monadnock Family Services, Monadnock United Way, the Magical History to a Mural Festival, among others, that help to make Keene a welcoming place for all. We also are joined by Elizabeth Cash Hitchcock, a principal of the Orbit Group, owner of Adored Wi-Fi, developer of the Factory on Willow, co-founder of Minim, and the owner of the Bookery in downtown Manchester. She works to attract additional investment dollars across several New Hampshire startup companies through her work at Write the Check, a gender diverse leadership fund, and is the general partner of the Millworks Fund, a triple bottom line investment fund focused on growing the New Hampshire tech ecosystem. This past year, she joined Chief, a private membership network focused on connecting and supporting women executive leaders. Her mission for all her endeavors is to build a better community through guidance, relationships, and capital. So welcome to these three ladies. We're also joined by Marion McCord, who is Senior Vice Provost for Research, Economic Engagement, and Outreach of the University of New Hampshire, where she leads a research enterprise that set a historic record for competitive funding in fiscal year 21, closing the year with more than $260 million awarded to UNH in new grants and contracts, which is double its 2020 record. Marion was also selected to serve on the National Science Foundation's Committee on the Future of the Established Program to stimulate competitive research. She's one of 19 national experts to guide the initiative's visioning activity by engaging with external stakeholders to better understand the impacts of its investment strategies and to identify new opportunities for increased success. We're also joined by Sandra Almonte, the owner of Don Quixote Restaurant, which serves authentic Caribbean cuisine to patrons in Manchester. In just over 2 decades, Sandra's business has grown and thrived, in no small part due to her unwavering commitment to providing authentic cuisine, a welcoming atmosphere for her patrons, and a genuine concern for the well-being of her employees and community. She's chair for the board of directors of NeighborWorks Southern New Hampshire, a board member for the Conservative Law Foundation and Manchester Proud, and an advisory council member for the Latino Hospitality Center. And we all are also joined by Michelle McEwen, the president and CEO of Spear Memorial Hospital in Plymouth, where she's been leading the organization for the last 21 years. Her extraordinary leadership during the pandemic has been pivotal in mobilizing hospital employees, community members, and businesses in order to keep those they serve safe. Michelle earned the top healthcare management credential of Fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives from the nation's leading professional society for healthcare leaders. Fellow status represents the highest standard of professional development, which only 5,400 healthcare leaders hold. And so those are our wonderful recipients today. I'll now ask all of them to join me on screen by turning their cameras and microphones on. Welcome, everyone. Happy to see you. And all right, it looks like we're all here. I am going to go ahead and kick us off with our opening question. I think I've had the opportunity to speak with all these women for their individual profiles that were featured in the February 11th issue of New Hampshire Business Review. And I got to learn more about how everybody has a different start in life, and across the board for all of you, there was some sort of spark of passion that led you down your path that culminated in where you are today. So I'm curious, we can all answer this if you prefer, but can you share with us what got you interested in your industry and why it spoke to you? Does anybody want to start?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I don't really have a specific industry, I kind of work across multiple places, but what threads the needle in all of them is experience. I grew up in a low-income family, and one of the things that I always could look towards, no matter what, is towards the arts and culture. And so when you see me creating experiences, they're about creating arts and culture for different people and helping them pull themselves out of where they are in life. So experience and arts and culture and helping people be the best them is really what it's all about.
I can go next. So as you heard in my introduction, I'm in the healthcare industry. I didn't start there. I am a CPA. That's how I started my career. I worked for what used to be called one of the big eights. That dates me because I don't have 8 anymore. But everybody starts in audit, and you go to various industries, you do their annual audits and publish their financial statements. So I got exposure to lots of different industries. Had the opportunity to participate in our consulting division, and that was focused on healthcare. I had a brief introduction to healthcare through the audit side, but the consulting side was just eye-opening for me because it wasn't a standard sort of workbook you followed as you did an audit. You went to every different type of client, whether it was a nursing home, a hospital, a home health agency, a mental health agency, and you were helping them solve problems. And so you had to use innovation, imagination. You had to learn how to sort of peel back the onion to try to figure out what truly is the problem and what are the possible solutions. And that just hooked me. Healthcare is a little bit different industry because it is so regulated. So sometimes it seems so restrictive, and sometimes there might not be, it doesn't appear initially that there's this easy solution. But that was really what sort of hooked me into healthcare, and I've been there ever since.
I can go next. Oh, Sandra?
That's fine, go ahead.
So for me, it was early on when I was a manager at a local retail business. And when the shop went up for sale, I didn't know any better. I was super confident that I could run it myself, and so decided to buy it. And it worked out.
So on my end, the community was actually what spoke to me. The restaurant was actually not my idea. It was my ex-husband's dream, and I developed it. I basically had to develop it and make it my dream. And just the connection with the community, each clients that came in, the opportunity to listen to their dreams, to listen to, most of them, of course, immigrants, and listen to how they wanted to reach, the American dream that we all come here for. And just the business just spoke. The community just talked to me, and I've been engaging silently for a long. I was engaging silently for a long time until I basically went into a project, a meeting, a Central City meeting with New Hampshire, and that's how I really just became the business just became my community hub for Manchester.
I can talk about how I got into academia in the first place. I was a graduate student getting a master's degree in biomedical engineering because I wanted to help people. I knew that I wanted to do something in the medical field, but I don't like touching sick people. So I decided that being a physician wasn't the right space for me, or at least that's what I was thinking about at that point in my life. And so I was majoring in biomedical engineering, and I was working on, a hip implant, and I got a job offer at one of the big orthopedic biomaterials companies that happened to be in Indiana. And I went for a job interview, and one of the other graduate students who had been in my program and worked for this company took me around, and we were talking about the job opportunity, and it would be, doing some iterations on hip stems, hip implants, and working with a team. And we walked by somebody's office, and it said, director of R&D, and I said, well, what does that person do? And she said to me, that's a person who looks forward in the company and thinks about where we want to go in the future. So I decided that was the job. I thought that's the job I really want. And I realized that I'd have to go on to get my PhD to go in that direction. But once I was a graduate student, there's a hierarchy in graduate school where it takes you several years, took me many years to get my PhD, and I started off as sort of the lowliest person in the lab, and then I worked my way up to the most senior person in the lab. And as that most senior person, I had an opportunity to really mentor the other incoming students who were, coming after me, and I was doing a lot of tutoring for them. I was able to be a teaching assistant at that time, and I realized that I loved teaching and I loved research. So it was just a fantastic realization for me that, gosh, I love this place. I love academia, and I want to stay here for my career. And I do think I've been lucky to be in one of the greatest professions ever, and finding myself in a public institution that has as its mission to really help the citizens of the state and the nation. It's just a really great honor. So I'm very fortunate to be where I've ended up.
That's excellent to hear. Thank you, Marian. And what I do love about, or I should say, what I admire most about all five of you is, how you saw a need in your community and you essentially provided an outlet to fulfill a gap. And, not to pick on Liz, but if we want to start with Liz, can you give us a bit of background on your ventures and sort of speak to how you helped your community overcome a challenge?
Well, so after I stopped working at Dine, Jeremy and I decided we wanted to have kids, and so I needed to step back because we both couldn't be working 60-hour weeks. I started to get really involved in our community. I started to do a lot with the arts and culture area, and I just realized that there were some places where we were missing very specific needs, and the most specific was a home for literature in our community. Gibson's has always been such an amazing institution in Concord, and we didn't have that institution in Manchester. So that was the hope when we created Bookery, was that we would create a home for literature, but also for open thinking, right? Like, you need to have everyone talking with everyone else, otherwise you're not going to have an amazing community. And I'm hoping that the ability for everyone to have those conversations right here in Manchester at Bookery really helps them do that. That was one of the first things I worked on. along with the family office, which is Orbit Group. Orbit Group's real intentions are to, incubate new businesses, to support really cool community activities, and support the developments that we're working on. And that's been a lot of fun. I've got to touch a lot of people and reach a lot of different people through our Artist in Residence program at the factory, via the artwork that we're placing out in Manchester regularly, including the artwork on the side of bunnies, as well as the cat crosswalk, the cat bike racks. We got really deep into cats for a while, the cat archway. And that was a lot of fun. And it's, it's all about having fun. So yeah, that's why we've done it. That's why we'll continue to do it. Arts are important for a community. And as I said before, they pull people out of a place where they might be dark at a time. And it's the opportunity to really give them some excitement and wow in Manchester.
I think Judy has similar experience in that endeavor with Keene in the history there that you have. Judy, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have to say, I like to try to do things that bring people into our community. One, it benefits my business. And I worked for years with Center Stage that did one-off weekend events. So we would have maybe 70,000 people during the height of the Pumpkin Festival come into Keene, which was wonderful. But sustainability wise, you really want people to come more often. And what ended up happening was I helped lead a project where we used public art as a vehicle and had 16 large-scale murals painted on our buildings in the center of Keene. So people, they all have historic themes related to Keene, and it's encouraging for people from out of town to come to visit, not just for the restaurants and the shops and the beautiful town we live in, but also gives them something to do. And it's completely accessible out. Public art, as Liz was saying, it's really important. Get involved in some sort of project that brings public art into your community. It's so fulfilling on every level and good for business.
Thank you. Sandra, you also you saw a huge need in your community, and then you took steps to become a community hub outside of just delivering some amazing meals. Can you tell us a little bit about your community ties and how you work with them?
Sure. Well, to begin with, food brings in the people. It connects them back to their culture and their heritage, and it just becomes a place of just feeling like family time all over again. And goodness, with the community, I believe I try to connect in every aspect, whether it's empowering, to begin with, empowering my employees to learn the English language, to hopefully, have Don Quixote as a stepping stone for them to move up and get a better education and move on. I mean, I have 2 of my ex-employees who now own their own businesses. One being right actually in same Center City, and that's actually an honor for me that I was able to bring her there. And then I have so many other ties with the community. We have the Latino Center. We have a big immigrant population that don't know the resources that are available to them. And of course, with NeighborWorks, we empower our residents to not only to live in a safe atmosphere at an affordable price, but also we empower them to reach one of the dreams, which is becoming your own homeowner. And just the community itself just has so much to offer. And I'm just trying to plant that seed and have more community members join us and just make Manchester a better place.
Thank you. I know you can do it. I see the passion in you. Marion, I'm actually curious about your little community hub there at UNH, and I wonder if you can speak to that a little bit.
Sure. I mean, obviously our community is a community within a larger community. And it's been great getting to know the community, though a little bit hampered because my first day was February 3rd, 2020. So it was really right after that we shut down, closed down our campus temporarily for COVID, and have been building back ever since. And, we have a wonderful community here. One of the great things about UNH is we are a land grant institution. One of our roles is to connect the university with communities around the state. So our community is highly connected to all of your communities, and I hope you've all had an opportunity to work with UNH in some way and find us to be a resource for you, whether it is through the Small Business Development Center or through UNH Extension, which actually has offices in every county in New Hampshire. So we really, the role that we play is to take the new knowledge that's generated at UNH and bring that to members in communities, to hear feedback from communities about what their needs are so that we can appropriately direct our attention to those needs. And one of the biggest challenges that we faced over the past 2 years has been COVID, obviously. So keeping our community safe has been a big focus of mine. We have developed this COVID testing lab. We realized late spring in 2020 that if we were going to be able to bring students back to the university, that we would need to be able to guarantee that we could do testing and turn around tests really quickly. So starting from scratch, we built our own lab, and we've been able to test for 125 non-UNH entities, including the whole USNH system, long-term care facilities, and schools, and many others. So that's been another wonderful way that I think we've been able to serve communities in New Hampshire.
That's excellent, and I think that actually brings me to Michelle, because I'm obviously COVID has been a huge challenge for everybody, but especially in the healthcare industry. So I'm curious, Michelle, how you maintained your community ties and helping everybody during that time.
Sure. I mean, we are a not-for-profit community hospital, so it's just part of everyday life for us to assess what our needs are, our community, and how can we help with those needs. Obviously, the last 2 years that has been primarily focused on COVID, and early on it was testing. How do we test so that we know who's infected and who isn't? So we do the community testing here. Early on, the state did put fixed sites up. We assisted with them by providing site staff to go there. Eventually, the state closed down their testing sites, and we've taken that over, and we continue to do community testing, both for symptomatic and non-symptomatic patients. We've worked closely with the university. We provide student health services at Plymouth State University, which is part of the UNH system, and work with many of the other public schools and others just to try to help them, guide them in what protocols they may want to put in place and what policies they want to put in place. We were heavily involved in vaccination when that became available. Again, provided staff to the fixed site here in Plymouth, and also sent staff down to the Speedway when they were doing their big events, just to help support getting in as many individuals vaccinated as possible. And certainly we're here to take care of those that are ill and particularly need hospitalization. We were fortunate enough in the early stages of COVID that we were not overrun like some of the larger populated areas in the southern part of the state and in the seacoast. But this past January, it hit all of us. It was very challenging when you had no bed available in the entire state, and patients were coming to our ER that typically we would have to send to a larger facility that had specialists we didn't have. And we couldn't even do that because none of them could accept patients. I mean, we were sometimes lucky in sending a patient to Connecticut or New York, but nobody in New England had a bed available. It really taxed our staff. We were taking care of patients that we were uncomfortable taking care of because we didn't have typical resources. But They stepped up. They did remarkable work. We used technology. We were even using telehealth with somebody out of the country to help us with some of our intubated patients. Our ER was inundated with patients that we couldn't move upstairs to the floor, so that we ended up closing our ORs to elective surgeries. You know, that's probably the most lucrative part of healthcare is elective surgeries. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. We can't do that. We'll still do emergency surgeries, but we need those beds from the recovery room to take care of our community. We needed to be here if they needed us. And so purposely shut down some of our services just to be able to care for them. Like, the good news is things are getting better. COVID hospitalizations have come down dramatically, and the pressure valve has been sort of released so that there are available beds in the state. And many of us have resumed our elective surgeries again.
That's always good to hear. Thank you for that. And I know that New Hampshire is, you know, its own little community, and a lot of us have been in New Hampshire for a while. But sort of going back to Marion, I know that you're a little bit of the newer side of being here in New Hampshire, and I'm curious what drew you here, and how you sort of work to because I know you came sort of around COVID time, and how did you connect your ties with the community at that time, and just what keeps you here?
Well, you know, I'm originally from Newport, Rhode Island, but I've spent the majority of my adult life in the South. First in South Carolina when I was in graduate school, and then in North Carolina for 25 years. So if I had a dollar for every time I said, I'm never moving back too cold, you know, I'd be quite wealthy. Really, and so many people who say you came the wrong direction, but no, I didn't. I'm just thrilled to be here, and I really came because of the opportunity at UNH. I mean, that's what drew me here. I wanted to be leading a research and engagement mission, and I love how my office covers that full gamut from idea to impact, and facilitating that for faculty, staff, and students. I really love the mission of UNH. We're fortunate to be a land, sea, and space grant institution. There are only 14 or so in the United States that have all those missions. And again, it's like I said, really about connecting to communities and doing work that is meaningful and matters. And that's what draws me here. You know, I've found that the community has been incredibly welcoming and gracious. Yes, it is cold, but you know, my husband and I, we live in Portsmouth, and we've been trying to get a little bit more integrated into the community there. Again, it has been challenging because of COVID, but UNH has, the community here at UNH has been incredibly welcoming as well. We've enjoyed participating in going to sporting events, and you know, enjoying some of the cultural events here. But we really do look forward to the time where we, you know, can fully realize gathering together with less anticipation or anxiety. So looking forward to doing more in the future.
Well, I'm not speaking on behalf of the whole state, but welcome. We're very lucky to have you. And I know you've been here for a while, Sandra, for a couple decades, but I did enjoy your story of how you came to Manchester, and I'm curious to hear what keeps you in New Hampshire. What do you love about New Hampshire? What do you hate?
I don't hate anything about New Hampshire. Although it is cold, I prefer the cold weather than the really hot heat that I guess I was born to. And what keeps me in New Hampshire is the community, the people, just the relaxed atmosphere compared to where I was raised in Paterson, New Jersey. It's totally different. I love the network that I created, the family that I now have. As I tell my parents and my sisters, I'm the only one that resides here in New Hampshire, but I feel that I have another family here. So just New Hampshire's my new home. It's been my home for 22 years now. And just the people, my staff, the people I network, the board members, the committee members, I mean, just in general, everybody. And of course my business. Don Quixote has been, goodness, it's been a struggle. The first 10 years were really, really hard. And then fortunately, maybe fortunately for me, after I got divorced, I blossomed. Things started changing around. I didn't need to have a second opinion, so I can move forward with, either a new menu or rehiring or whatever had to be done. It's a wonderful feeling. It's empowering to know that I could do it, and just continue to strive.
Well, thank you. I'm actually very interested in how all of you have a lot of really strong teams that work in your organizations. And so I'm really curious if any of you have ideas of what makes a good manager, what's a great leadership style that you hope how you empower your team. I was wondering if you could share that with us, free for all. So if anybody wants to speak to that.
I can start. The first thing, I lead by example. So just showing the staff members and basically anybody around me that I could try to mentor, just discipline. It's one of the first things that we need to have. And just follow your dream and just go for it and get as many mentors, networking people that you can ask questions to and be honest and get candid opinions. Whether you like them or not, you can, in the few days, a few weeks, even a few months, you can go back to them and then realize, okay, this is the way I want to go. So just leading by example and having discipline in everything you do is the way that I've done it.
I'll expand upon what Sandra is saying. I think that the bottom line is don't expect anybody that's a member of your team to care more about your business than you do. So providing that leadership role, that example to follow is, I think, probably the most critical thing for success.
I agree we need to set the example as leadership. I think we also have to be willing to be servant to our staff. We're asking them to do things, but we should be willing to do them as well. I mean, going back to COVID, I mean, my senior team would be out screening visitors coming in, delivering linen, doing anything we could to support our staff. I think it sent the message that, we understood the challenges they were facing. We were here to help them rather than just keep telling them, sorry, you have to work extra hours, you got to work in this other unit. But we were part of the team with them and supporting them.
Yeah, we had the same kind of all hands on deck response here with senior leadership from the university participating in our testing, arrival testing when we found ourselves shorthanded. That's, you have to be willing to do everything that anyone else is expected to do and not be above that in any way. I think other qualities of being a good leader are to be a good listener, to really try to hear concerns from your employees, to try to point them in a direction for their own personal success and to give them resources to be successful, to give them some level of autonomy to make decisions about how to accomplish their goals. I think that is really empowering. And empowering is, I think, really the word. the word that I would use to describe the way that I want or aspire to lead. It's to really empower folks to do the things that they want to do, to take the next step, to create opportunities for them.
I definitely agree with everyone. Definitely leadership is something that starts with yourself. You've got to be a great example for everyone else. But I also think stating your intentions clearly, both for the organization and for people, is really important as well. So if you go ahead and make sure that everyone is on board, everyone's pulling in the same direction, you're going to get a lot further, a lot quicker.
I also take this opportunity to remind everybody, if you want to ask questions of these lovely ladies, please pop it in the chat. But I know that we, you know, when I spoke with each of you, I think I touched a little bit on mentorship and how important that is. And I know we've just sort of briefly talked about how you work with your teams, but I was wondering if you guys have any cases of direct mentorship that, I know, Sandra, you've done that with your employees that have their own businesses, which is fantastic. So I'm really curious to hear what you guys, how important you believe mentorship is. If you guys are willing to share a personal story, if you've had a mentor of yourself growing up, we'd love to hear that if you're willing to share.
I can also have some input on that, Amanda. The first mentors that I have were my parents. My parents were the first ones to show me responsibility, being the oldest of four, and just if you want to get something done, you have to do it yourself, and you have to just follow through, and just that responsibility of learning how to save, of learning if you want to get an A in school, how you have to study for that test, and how you had to learn, you know, and ask questions whenever it was necessary. As I got into my business, my first mentor was one of my insurance agents. And then I continue to have building those relationships, you know, not only with him, and you know, I would ask questions on my business. How can I, you know, move to the next level? How can I enhance my menu? You know, we have a big diversity of clients here in Manchester. How can I reach the other people who are not come in? Because unfortunately, where I am, it's known as the zone, and the Center City has unfortunately a lot of stereotyping that I have to deal with, and just trying to get customers to come in, let's say from another affluent cities, you know, where so they're not scared, right? They're not scared of the Center City, and just that mentor, and also all the mentors that I've had over the years, especially after I joined NeighborWorks. We have coaches, Sarah, Bernadette, and our Cantor, which is one of the my newest mentor after I took the Huffman Haas Fellowship. And just I continue to have those relationships with them. And of course, in board development within our board, we usually have a board mentor. So Connie, I think you're somewhere there, because they're actually the ones who have made me just feel so empowered and so enthusiastic about continuing. And mentoring just starts at the bottom, but it never ends. I think I'll be 90 years old, and I hope to have that person there that I can ask questions on maybe my grandchildren, how not to spoil them, and whenever that comes around. But yes, mentoring is part of our daily lives.
I can go next. I mean, I want to start the same way. My mother was an incredible role model for me. I was a child of the 60s. Not many mothers worked then, but my mother did, not because she had to, because of financial reasons. She always saw her role as being a partner in our family, a partner with my father, or my father. In that, you know, putting a roof over her head, putting meals on the table was both their responsibilities, not just my father's responsibility. When they opened their own family business, they were truly partnerships. Even though she was a bookkeeper, you know, that wasn't her role. She spent the long hours and the gray hairs and the challenges of how to keep this small business afloat. And so that instilled in me early on that women can be successful in business. And so I think I got an early start there. One of my greatest mentors was the partner at the Big 8 firm that ran the healthcare consulting. I was, had an introduction to healthcare through the audit side. I didn't truly knew all of the operations, particularly on the clinical side. And so he guided me into how to solve some of these issues that we were engaged to help them solve. And he continued through many years, even beyond my role there at the Big 8 firm, because I've been in healthcare ever since, and we've kept in touch until he recently retired just last year.
That's excellent. And I hate to interrupt this conversation, but we do have a question from our audience from Bernadette Orr, saying that you are also impressive and make it look easy. I concur with that thought, Bernadette. Can you speak to the work you've done to practice self-care and perhaps learning to say no so that you can be here for the long haul, which I've definitely dealt with that, sometimes you have to say no. Can anybody speak to Bernadette's question?
I'll start. So early on in business, networking is very important, and saying yes to things is part of that. And I would say yes to everything. And, irons in the fire. My husband was actually the one who came to me one day and said, you know what? There's a family, I have 2 boys, and I was a young business owner, 23, starting out. And he said, there's a balance that you need to find. And that was probably about 5 years into business ownership for me. And it's advice that I've kept with me the whole time. I'm always involved in something, but I'm not involved with everything. Pick and choose, and make time. When I leave work, I leave it behind, and it's all about family time. So balance is very important, and saying no is okay, and it's very important for self-care.
Balance is important, but so is your health. So having healthy habits, whether it's eating, being very active, you need to make time for those. The business can consume you. You can put 80 hours a week in and then try to fit family around it. So yes, balance with family, but also balance with time for yourself and keeping yourself healthy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I wouldn't say I'm the poster child for balance in any way, but I would say that it's a continuous improvement process. I am a cancer survivor. So once the gift of cancer, I like to say, is that you realize that life is short, and you don't know, you can't make assumptions. So I've tried to live my life with that appreciation to take that health is everything. My health is everything. And when I do things that put my health in jeopardy, like don't take good physical care or mental care of myself, that's not good for me. And I need to make that a priority. And I also have tried not to wait to do things that I've always wanted to do. So I traveled with my, I have two children and a stepdaughter, and my husband and we traveled with them all over the world when they were younger. I think that not waiting for another day to do things that you really want to do is incredibly important.
I love that. Making sure that you enjoy the journey as much as the outcome that you're looking for is so important in life. And that's one thing that we try and live for in our family, is making sure that while there are outcomes that we're looking for and things that we're trying to do, enjoying every moment up into that point, whether it's through travel or through just the experience itself, and making sure we enjoy that. I want to echo as well, health is super important. Find something you love to do. Is it dance? Is it hiking? Because you'll move your body more, and you'll be more healthy if you do that. So find something you love.
Yeah, that's so key. I also wanted to shout out to my mom, because I heard other folks saying that their mom was their role model. And my mom was mine, and she unfortunately, she died 17 years ago, pretty young, but she, you know, I watched her. She had 3 kids, one who had was autistic, and at the time that really required a lot of work on her part of advocacy, and she was an amazing advocate. And she went back to school part-time to get her master's at night after we came home from school, and you know, became a school librarian. And shout out to the moms out there who inspire us all the time. Just
that actually pertains to our last question of the day, unfortunately. Liz Martell had a question for Sandra of how do you manage single parenthood and running your business?
It's a challenge. My boys are teenagers now, and actually one of them is 17 today. And these days they are all on their own. They think they're all adults. So I don't have as much time with them as I would like to. When they were younger, it was one of the drawbacks that I have as growing my business. I had to choose with should I be with the kids or should I continue to grow and develop my business? But thank God and thank my family and staff members, which is also my family. They actually helped me to continue to, you know, be at soccer fields, be you know, whenever they were in karate or the baseball fields, and just taking that time, those few hours a day. The same way now that I'm not at the fields, now I do. I join the different committee meetings. And that's actually some self-care for me because it gives me time away from the business to just focus on me, because that's what gives me joy. And just that extra time, a few hours that I am able to spend, whether it was with them going out to dinner or special events, going on walks, it's actually enough. And then once a year we try to take a family vacation, and then I take a family vacation with them and my sisters and their kids. And then I also try to take, even if it's 4 days, for myself. So it's something that you juggle and you just learn how to do along the way.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing. We also had a comment, which I definitely concur with, from Shaylee Connolly. You ladies are amazing. Thank you for sharing today. And she's humbled by how wonderful it is to see this tradition continue. So she wants to keep engaging and loving what everybody does. So I definitely second that. Because we are close to time, I am going to say thank you to all the ladies today for speaking with us. And for those who submitted questions, I am going to turn it over now to Ernesto Burden, who will give us some closing remarks. And thank you for me.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you everyone who presented today. There was so much that was said that was insightful and profound and useful. There is nothing that I could add to that by way of closing remarks other than to say thank you. We're grateful for you being here and for you doing everything that you've done in your communities. We're also grateful for Deborah Holloway and her team at Arts and Reach and for everything that they're doing to serve the community. And we're thankful to our audience. Thank you for coming. And so many of you, I believe, are former recipients of this award. And so you continue to do amazing work in the community. Thank you. And finally, I'd like to thank our sponsors, without whom we would not be able to present events like this. So Lovering Auto Group, Melanson Certified Public Accountants, Connection, Meredith Village Savings Bank, Basil Hayden's, and the Business and Industry Association of New Hampshire. Thank you all for supporting this. For folks who would like to read or see a little bit more from our panelists today, they are also featured in a special section in the current edition of New Hampshire Business Review, which you can find in print or online at our website, nhbr.com. You'll also be able to get and share a copy of the presentation from today later at nhbr.com. So with that, thank you all. Inspiring inspiring hour that we just spent together. Have a great day.